Today we're going to be talking about one of the most poisonous, hurtful, absolutely useless words as a leader, internally, externally, with your staff, in any context whatsoever. So in my opinion, one of the worst words you can use as a leader. We're going to talk all about it today. And absolutely, should you pay attention? Yes, because I just used the word should. We're going to talk all about not shoulding on ourselves, not using the word should. Why? Because powerful leaders are creative. They're not forceful. They're not manipulative. And the word should will only as a victim and as a manipulation. So we just got to get it out of our language. That being said, we're going to dive deep into the language of learning, the language of leadership today. And we're going to learn all about the word should, where it comes from, where it takes us, and why I believe we should, yeah, pun intended, get it the hell out of our language completely. I am on a mission to remove should from my language forever, even though tongue in cheek, I'm using it here. So what's the language of leadership? All right, so we are talking about should. Now, you probably have heard the adage, don't should on yourself, right? Here's the deal with the word should, okay? First, what is the word should? What is the origin of the word should? Let's talk about it. Should is actually the past tense of the word shall, right? And everybody knows legally we say you shall or I shall or we shall. It is a force. It is a requirement. This shall, this must happen. It's past tense of that. So you can see already the problem with the word should, just in the fact that it's a past tense of shall. It is, this should have already happened, right? So it's in the past, I should have done it, but I usually implied as I did. The word should will always bring with it guilt and or shame. Sometimes both, sometimes one or the other. Guilt and shame. Let's talk about what guilt and shame is. Guilt is when you feel you don't want to do something anymore. It can be really useful for a second. When you start carrying guilt around beyond that second, like you realize, I feel guilty. Man, I don't want to do that anymore. Great. You can resolve a new choice, right? So no guilt, no shame, new choices, right? We resolve guilt and shame the same way. We resolve guilt and shame with new choices. So it's not that guilt and shame have no use. They do have a use, but they have a very momentary use. We carry guilt and shame beyond choice, beyond changing our behavior. We really have a problem, right? So guilt is internal. Guilt is me saying, I don't want to do this anymore, right? Then I can make a decision to not do that anymore, right? Shame is external. Shame is other people saying, hey, you ought not to do that, right? Now, the first decision you have to make with shame is, do the people who are telling you ought not to do that, do they matter to you? Do you agree to them? Do they have the authority to tell you this, right? Because with shame, the first choice is really, does that person even matter? There's so many people screaming shit from the bleachers, so many comments that don't matter to us. Our first decision with shame is, do I even accept this person as an authority in our life? And if I do, then I always say, okay, they're saying I shouldn't do this, right? There's that should word, right? So do I accept that or not? And the new choice may first be, well, I don't accept their opinion. If I do accept their opinion, okay, here's how I'm going to change this in the future. Great. No guilt. No shame, but let's get back to the word at hand. Should is the past tense of shall. Shall has its origins in some old words that actually mean to owe. So it's actually a debt, and you can feel that with should. Like when you say, oh, we should have done, and then just inserting that we should have locked the car, right? Like we should have locked the car, or we should have paid this earlier. We should have there is an owing. There's a debt that's involved in there. That absolutely brings a guilt and shame. As a leader, we don't want to be leading with guilt and shame. This is not going to create powerful organizations. It's not going to provide powerful leadership in any way, right? So we want to stay away from guilt and shame. We don't want to be guilt tripping people into doing what they need to do. And the word should almost always does that, whether we're using it internally or whether we're using it externally with our clients. Not our clients, but our clients, or whatever it is that should will take us down this path of guilt and shame. It's really not how we're going to be able to lead most effectively, because why? We talked about this last week. We want to be able to inspire, right? To breathe life into people. As a leader, if we're going to inspire our teams, if we're going to inspire our clients, if we're going to inspire the people we're leading, we are not going to be able to effectively do that with guilt and shame. Guilt and shame is not going to raise anyone up. Guilt and shame is especially not going to raise you up. If you're in your life, there's this thing you've been trying to do again and again and again, it's just not working, right? The last thing you need to do is add a heavy dose of guilt or shame on top of that. It's not going to do you any good. You're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to feel a whole lot worse about what you're not getting done. What you want to do, like I said before, inspire, like breathe some life into it. You're actually sucking the life out by using this word should, because there's no way to guilt and shame that is associated with should. And as a leader, we want to be breathing life into people. We want to be showing them the path towards results, right? Here's the thing. So what do you use instead? Because let's face it, the word should is a really effective word. It's a word we use all the time as leaders, as employers, right? So how do you replace that word? Like, I walk in, right, and the books haven't been reconciled from last week, but they should have been done, right? We had a deadline for Friday. So what do I replace it with? How do I effectively walk in and say, hey, you should have done this, right? Hey, there was a deadline. We missed the deadline. I want you to know that this is important for our company, for our venture, for our movement, for our whatever it is to move forward. We have to take deadlines seriously. We have missed the deadline. Now, help me understand why it is we didn't hit this deadline. I never used the word should. I put out really clear facts there, but I did use the word want, right? So leaders are going to avoid the word should. What we're going to do is we're going to replace the word should with the word want in almost every circumstance. I should have eaten better, right? Let's just say you went out on Friday night, like it's Monday, over the weekend, you went out, you went and ate off of what you thought you should. I should have eaten better. Well, that's a bunch of guilt and shame. What good is that going to do me now? You know what? I want to eat better. I want to do better than that. Notice when I shift should to want, there's an inspiration, there's a forward moving energy inside of that instead of a backward looking broke that. Takes it out of blame, which is, oh, you should have. This was, you messed up. It puts it into a direction that's useful. You know what? I want to eat better than that. I want to do this, which means, hey, next time, here's what I'm going to do better than this. With your employees, right? Someone misses a deadline, same thing. You should have hit the deadline. Where does that go? Like, what am I even supposed to do with that as an employee, right? Like, yeah, you're right. I'm terrible. Like, grovel. I hope as a leader, your intention is not to get people groveling and admitting how bad they are. I hope your intention as a leader is to get somewhere. We're on a mission. We're on a journey together. I'm the leader saying, hey, here's how we get there. So what I want to do is take the backward facing, here's where we screwed up kind of language, and really start to tilt that towards forward facing. So instead of, hey, you should have hit the deadline, hey, hitting the deadline is important for us to get where we're going. Remember, here's our mission. We're going to be there at that time. In order to do that, we have to hit our deadline. So I want you to understand how important that is, and I want to understand how this isn't going to happen again. Now, notice the difference in tone there, because I've shifted should to want. Same thing, I should eat well to eat well, right? I should exercise more. I should, whatever it is, right? Like whatever's going on in your life, I should connect with my kids more. Like that should is going to take you nowhere. It's just going to keep you buried in the past. It's just going to keep you buried in past failures. And there is no success that you can have no success while wallowing in the past failure. Like you can have no success wallowing in the failures of your past. You can create success by doing something new. So just, hey, either you want it or you don't. Now, maybe there's an external should, right? Maybe someone's telling you, hey, you should do this. If you're going to be X, you should do, and just insert. Well, then you need to decide, do you want that or not? They're saying that, but what do you want? It's not about should. Like, no one has some external authority to tell you who you want to be or not. It's up to you to create that as a leader. Someone tells me you should, the first thing I think is, do I want this? Right? I don't accept that anyone else outside of myself has the right to tell me who I am. That being said, I've made obligations to people and I can listen and I can accept. But hey, do I really want what they're saying? If so, okay, so using the word should, cool. Any guilt or shame or bullshit that comes with that. At the same time, all right, well, they think I should do this. Why? Because they think something else. All right, if I want that, then I will follow their lead and move forward. This is a word, guys. I am doing my darndest to get completely out of my lexicon, completely out of my vocabulary. I would be never use the word should again. It's terrible. It happens with our kids all the time. Well, you should have, right? And then all that happens to them is they just go spinning off into some guilt and shame party. And they're not even going to see what this, because they're just so sad about what they messed up and how they let you down, weren't good enough, right? It's like, okay, well, what do we want to do instead? We understand that didn't work. Okay, my daughter was in a cross-country race this last weekend, right? And she tried just barreling out the first 150 yards or so. She's like, I'm just going to sprint the first 100, 150 yards. It didn't work. It's like the guy said, she went out fast, but it went way too fast, and she struggled with the race. So she still was right in the range of her PR for the total race, but it just didn't work. And I could say easily, hey, you shouldn't have done that. And she said that about herself. She's like, well, I shouldn't have run so hard. Like, I shouldn't have sprinted so much at the beginning. I would have had more juice at the end. I was like, well, okay, hold on. Let's not shit on ourselves, right? Let's slow down. It's like, you were testing running out. It didn't work, right? So what do we want? We want more juice at the end. We want a better time. We tested that. It didn't work. So next time, what do we want? Like, where do we want to go? How bad you were. Cool, I tested this. It didn't work. But here's what I'm going to do instead. I want an overall better time. I tried this. It didn't work. Instead of, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that just brings so much negative energy. And there's already enough negative. Life is already uphill enough. We don't need to be adding that with our self-talk. Anytime you find yourself inside of your self-talk, you're really adding a lot of extra weight, burden, and resistance for no particular reason. No particular reason. You're not helping yourself forward. You're not moving yourself forward. As leaders, we got to eliminate the word should. I hope, guys, that this gives you a little bit of insight about the word should and how useless it is as a leader. It will not inspire anyone forward. It will only mire them in the past and in the mistakes of the past. Should is the past tense of shall. Right there, it shows us, hey, as a leader, this doesn't have a whole lot of use to us because we don't need the past. Like, the past is an indicator. We can use it to kind of, but the past is not where we're going. As leaders, we inspire people towards their future, and something that has us rooted in the past will never actually work. I hope you absolutely learned something today. I hope you'll make a commitment to get rid of should and replace it with want. Replace it with want. Have the courage, take the courage to want things and to want them passionately and to create them as a leader